Xiangli Yao is going to be the first free 5-star character that we're going to be getting in Wuthering Wave. Now, you know, if you've been with Kuro games for a while, I think we're going to be expecting, you know, probably a lot more free 5-star coming in the future. But either way, I really appreciate it because Xiangli Yao is a very interesting and cool looking character. And now that he is free, we can generally think more about, you know, getting his weapon or constellation if you really want to invest into him. However, for those of you who are still on the fence and thinking whether or not you should invest more or just save for future character, obviously this video is dedicated toward that and looking into some of the major considerations that you guys should think about before going ahead and invest more into Xiangli Yao. Astrites, admit it, I know you all love this shiny gems. Your favorite Wuthering Waves character requires this, but well, you're out of Astrites. What do you do now? Well, of course, we tend to swipe our cards, however, that can be quite expensive, doesn't it? But thanks to Loot Bar, our sponsor for today's video, we have an even better way for you guys to top up for Wuthering Waves. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 20% on all of your top-ups. With over 11,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point in time, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. To demonstrate to you, I've been topping up my Wuwa account through Loot Bar, buying the highest Wuwa package. You go through the checkout process, then they will ask you to fill your account information. After completing, you will have a direct message notifying that they are hopping in to top up for you. Then voila, you're done. Here you can see my order receipt. I've topped up Genshin Impact with Loot Bar many times before, so I can be sure that they are safe. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save money, especially if you are topping up a large amount in Wuthering Waves. Now, first of all, let's talk about Yao's gameplay. I'm just going to call him Yao now for short. Is that to keep it simply, how you're going to be playing Yao is that you're just going to be trying to charge up his liberation as fast as you can. Cast his liberation, and that's where his combo is going to start doing damage. Now, obviously, before his liberation, he does a slightly bit of damage, but that's not going to be pretty much significant because everything, all the buff that he's going to be having is going to be coming from his liberation, because that has a different multiplier, as well as many of his buffing is focusing toward increasing his liberation damage. And then from there, you're just going to do his basic attack to charge up his forte, and then when it's maxed, you basically press his skill, and then he's going to be doing a pretty big charging kind of burst thing. But overall, how we can see him is like he's very similar to Kaosharo in terms of how he plays, but it's basically easier to Kaosharo because charging up his stack and getting his kind of like enhanced skill is a lot easier, and I'd say it's relatively faster as well. So overall, his gameplay and kit I think is pretty easy to understand. Now, looking into his banner a bit, it's probably not going to be relevant to those of you who don't pull for his constellations or, you know, Resonance Chain. But while obviously when we're looking into it, there's only going to be Danjin who's going to be a very good character if you want her more of her sequence. Because while for both Auto and Yuan Wu, you're probably not going to be using them ever too much. The only situation where you're going to be using Yuan Wu at this point is going to be when you're on a Jingzi team, and even Yuan Wu doesn't really need his Resonance Chain, so it's not going to be relevant. And Auto, I can't really think of when you're going to be using him unless you really like to play him as a character. So it's pretty much going to be Danjin. If you really like Danjin more of a sequence, the sequence is actually pretty good, especially when you're at S6. She does have the ability to buff all your team attack by 20%, which is really nice. Or, you know, maybe in the future we have another Havoc DPS, who knows, maybe Camellia. Then her ultra skill that provides an extra 23% Havoc damage is a pretty interesting thing. So overall, Danjin's value is still pretty much there, but either way, I don't think man is going to be going too much for the sequence, so we don't need to care too much about the 4-star here. Alright, now let's look into Yao's signature's weapon, and I must say it's actually pretty good. It gives you a 24% crit rate with decent base attack, but everything about its passive just increases his ability to do damage so much, because at first you're getting a 12% increase to his attribute damage, which is going to be Electro, and then getting an extra 48% 10% increase in liberation damage. That goes for basically all of his liberation duration, so overall he's always going to get an extra 48% attack increase. So overall everything is good here. That's a lot of increase and an overall valuable signature weapon if you are really wanting to invest into Xiangli Yao. Now when you're pulling for his weapon, going alongside with it is going to be the Makato, Helios Cleaver and Nova Burst. Now overall I think all of these weapons are actually pretty good. Both Helios and Nova Burst helps your character to have a decent attack increase as well as its passive is pretty nice. And Makato is an energy regen gauntlet. That's not really too relevant to Xiangli Yao, but overall as long as you get it, any other future supporting gauntlet character can have a pretty good weapon. So the weapon banner here, if you're going for his signature, is actually a pretty good thing, and I'm happy that they did it because his signature weapon is actually very important to him, considering other options for Xiangli Yao isn't actually too good. Because if you're looking into all the gauntlet that is available in the game, for the 5-star standard options, I think it's a fine choice. Obviously you just have to go for it if you have it on your account and you're not going for his signature weapon, because the base as well as the attack increase does help him a pretty good amount, and alongside with that you get more energy regen from this, with considering that he is very much required to have his liberation up 100% of the time. Having more energy here is going to be helping you a lot, but unfortunately the rest of the passive is not going to be helping him in pretty much any way, because once he's going to liberation, all of his scaling is going to be regarded as a liberation damage, so this is not going to be helping him out. Other than that, if you are looking into any of the 4-star options that is free to play, we basically don't really have a lot. Like you know, the Amity Accord, the passive is pretty freaking good, but it gives him defense. Gauntlet 21D is probably a pretty good one, and I think this is a craftable weapon in the game, right? But the base attack is just so damn low, and energy regen passive is an okay thing because again he needs liberation, right? And the passive give you like 8% increase your attack at you know at R1, and if you're looking at R5 it's going to be a 16%, and on top of that you get a counter attack damage increase, which I mean it's okay. It's not all the time that you get this damage, but overall I think it's a fine choice if you are really going to free to play. Hollow Mirage, well, that's going to be a 3 stack at the maximum. You're getting a 9% attack increase if you're at R1. I mean, you know, the base and the attack bonus is pretty nice, so you know, a decent options. Makato, as we've mentioned, we're not going to be using. Now if you're looking into the 3-star, however, we have a very interesting option. That's going to be the original type 4. We're not going to be looking into the passive because it's not going to be helping him too much, but the crit damage is actually very good, like 40% crit damage increase. You know, for an absolutely, you know, either early game or a free to play option, I think there's also a pretty much fine option here for Xiangli Yao. But other than that, the rest is very much a tough situation. So if you're looking to invest into Xiangli Yao, the Battle Pass option I say is one of the best options that you can get right now if you're in the mix of, you know, light spender, because everything that it gives, from the base attack, a decent base attack with a 20% crit rate, is actually pretty nice, just around, you know, 4% lower than his signature, and then the passive works really well with Xiangli Yao. So those are going to be his pooling options. Now another important consideration that you want to look into is the future banner discussions, right? You know, Shorekeeper is going to be a character that's coming, and while we kind of already know that she's not going to be a DPS character and more of a Verena type of character where she has access to whole team healing as well as supporting, so I know that many of us are going to be saving up for Shorekeeper, considering that in the game right now, apart from Verena, who's taking up a lot of the team comp, Baijiu is still out there doing her best to keep many of your team alive. Now Shorekeeper is going to be a great addition, because from my straight prediction is that she's going to be a direct increase of an improvement toward Baijiu, of course, and a pretty nice addition to your team if you do decide to pull for her. That's going to be a lot of huge consideration, especially when you're thinking also about pulling for Shorekeeper's weapon. Now obviously as of right now we don't have official information about Shorekeeper, so we can't really discuss too much about her, but after Shorekeeper we don't know how long before we're going to be having another good support character towards the team, so that definitely is a consideration that you want to think about. Now usually in the previous patches we always had 2 new characters coming into the game. However, in 1.3 we're going to be only getting 1. So what's going to be happening in kind of like a second phase? Shopkeeper is definitely not going to be having a 6-week banner. So a very high chance is that we're going to be seeing rerun banner. Now I don't know if it's going to be 1 or 2 rerun banner. I mean, hopefully it's going to be 2, so you know, more chances of you guys getting the character that you have missed. And a huge consideration into that is definitely going to be Yi Yan or Yinlin. Now for Yi Yan, he's definitely still going to be a very good character if you do decide to get him into your account. However, a more important character you guys want to look into is definitely going to be Yinlin, especially if you are more interested toward investing into your Xiangli Yao. Yinlin is definitely a very spicy consideration, because not only do I always recommend you getting another new character in opposed to any of the sequence or weapon, but Yinlin is definitely the most important support character when it comes to you using Xiangli Yao, because if you don't have it, you're missing out on basically the ultra skill of Yinlin that give increase to electro damage bonus, as well as liberation, which makes it Xiangli Yao I think the very first character in the game that gets, you know, the full buff of any of these characters ultra skill, right? So that's going to be the rerun banner. Not to mention there has been rumor that Camellia is having a high chance to be coming in 1.4, right? I think we're going to be seeing any kind of teaser coming in the future, because usually we get a teaser of a character before any patches goes live, right? So before 1.3 we're most likely going to be knowing which 5-star character are going to be coming in 1.4. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of consideration coming into that, which is why here I'm going to be giving you my personal advice in terms of what you guys want to do when it comes to Xiangli Yao investment. And I think it's something that I will personally do if I were to consider investing into more of Xiangli Yao. Is that, well, obviously if you really love him as a character, you'll probably already decide to go for his signature and possibly his S1 anyway. However, if you're thinking about resource efficient in terms of investment, then first off, if you don't have Yinlin, that's definitely going to be a top priority. It's something that I would love to say, but thinking about, you do have another whole patch of saving up for Yinlin. If she does have her rerun when it comes to 1.3, I think it's going to be worth it if you guys try to go for his signature weapon. But obviously, if you don't want to invest too much and you do want to save up for Shopkeeper, then saving up for Yinlin is going to be a nice idea. And then next up, it's definitely trying to get the 5-star standard option, because technically speaking it is free to play, because you guys all have the ability to get this for free in the game. But if you've already gotten another 5-star standard weapon and you're out of, you know, standard pool at this point in time, I think if you really want to invest ready, you can, you know, maybe just get the battle pass and get the donut from it, because overall the 4-star battle pass isn't really that bad. And then lastly, it's definitely going for his sequence if you do want it, because overall I think his sequence is a pretty fine choice, upgrading his damage by a large amount. So overall I think that's all I have to say regarding, you know, some of the investment thinking before you actually go ahead and do that for Xiangli Yao, considering there are so many future characters coming into the game. If you guys do have any question, leave it down in the comment sections, and I or some other lovely Wuthering Wave player is going to be getting you there. I hope that the video have been helpful to you. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Wuthering Wave videos. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video, guys, and with that I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.